I know my show's called Something Came from Baltimore, but I'm in Philly now. And I know you're from Chester. Do you still have people in Chester?
Yes. Yeah, I still have people in Chester.
Yeah, it's a weird place. It has every opportunity of being like amazing. It's not. It's in a great location and everything, and it just kind of doesn't seem to get it together.
Yeah, there's a story behind Chester. There's a story there, and it's kind of it's a town that was it was really like a great place for work at the Second World War and around that time. A lot of work, a lot of African Americans migrated. Of course, they went straight up. A lot of people from North Carolina go, and there was a lot of work along the river, and there was factories and number of factories. I think that work is over though, and so
it's like Baltimore.
Yeah.
The river doesn't supply any work anymore.
Right, but at least, Chester's is connected to Philadelphia, So, but there's the town itself is kind of like a little, I guess you could call it a satellite to Philadelphia, and so, but it has in recent years it has suffered, with the loss of those factories and that thing, and people have stayed there to just whatever.
I want to get into this. I don't want to take all your time. I saw you hopped on about a half hour earlier, so I was like, "Oh my God, I think I got it wrong," but it was 6. It's an honor to speak to you, Joe Chambers. Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore.
Right.
I just want to set up this interview first by saying, what are you doing for your being so physically fit? And do you have any kind of health regimens or diets that you seem very...
Yeah, I tried to work out, which I've lost that schedule. I try to work out 3 times a week, but I'm off of that. But I have worked out a lot and trying, and I say try because I have bad habits eating, but I'm trying to eat the right stuff. And which I have tried. I've concentrated since this pandemic. I've been doing a lot. I think that's the key to it, really, is your personal immune system.
Yeah. Well, they found out that a lot of people who didn't have a lot of vitamin D, they weren't getting enough sunlight, they weren't exercising, or were the ones that were, prone to pass, unfortunately.
Right. So, that's what I've been doing. I've been a lot of zinc, vitamin D, magnesium, C, and because I'm a diabetic too, see, so I have to take medications, and so.
Really? You don't, you look like, you remind me of like, Joe Sample. Joe was really into being physically fit, and you have that kind of same look. How long have you had diabetes?
Oh, I, found out about it about 2004.
Okay, you've been working on it for a while.
Around that time, 2004, 2005. And, I tried to maintain it, you have to change the diet and then eat the medications,
Yeah.
So.
Where are you located right now?
I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wilmington,
North Carolina.
Love that place.
I came down here in 2008.
Never left. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's nice.
This is your first recording for Blue Night for a really long time. You've had basically 50 years of work with them. How do they hand over the keys? How is there like a one-off contract for you, or do you
I recorded as a leader back in 1990. It must have been 1999, 1998.
Yeah.
I did a thing via Michael Kuskuna, Mirrors, Of course, like I tell people, I was, of course I was involved in Blue Note way back in the heyday in the 60s, recording And I was offered a recording back then, which I was just spaced, but I call it space, but I was very busy recording and working, playing and traveling. So I didn't even follow up on it.
You would think that you'd have the key to the executive bathroom at least for the amount of records that you put in there and how the years that you put in.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you right there. I'm talking about the mid '60s, '67, '60s, somewhere around that time. I was in, and they said, come on, yeah, Alfred, and said, come on, let's sit down, let's listen, and I was just
working too hard.
I was spaced, and I don't want to get into that, but I wasn't obviously didn't have a business sense because I could have jumped on that.
Yeah,
I was I was busy working though. I was working a lot, and my mind was involved in the things that everybody's mind was at that time.
Well,
during that time.
Do you have regrets at this point because your career is stellar? I mean, do you go back and go, wow?
No. Yeah, things came as they came. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, your life is rich, and that actually brings me into the next question: is your life is so full, and you've met so many people. Have you ever had the opportunity to do a memoir, or do you talk to a biographer about your life? Because you have.
As a matter of fact, I do have a completed book, a completed biography, you could call it. It's just sitting. And I don't have the energy or whatever it is to follow up. My brother, who since passed, he was a writer and he had books and he edited it. And I didn't, literally, that's what it's doing. It's sitting in my back room there. And I just don't have the thing to go, put it out. Yeah. So it'll get out. I'll put it out. It'll come out.
The idea that I had, and I don't know if this is too time consuming, and we can skip it if you don't want to, but I was looking at, all the management styles of how many people you worked with and how they developed their group and how they managed their team to get their sound. And I was going to go through some of the list of some of the amazing artists, and maybe you can tell me how it was like to record for them. What was their management style?
Okay, that's a question that come up. Common questions that's come up in interviews, etc. First of all, it was none of the musicians that I recorded with, and back then, it wasn't. They didn't approach it that way. It wasn't like that, Let's see. I guess an easy pathway was I met Eric Dolphy in '61, around 1961, and I was living in Washington D.C. and playing at a place called Bohemian Caverns, and I was there 3 years, and we worked 6 nights a week, 3 years, etc. I was studying and working. And we had this group called JFK Quintet. 4 of the members have since dead. 3. Andy White, Walter Booker, the bass player, Harry Kilgo. Now they're gone, excuse me. So Andy White was invited to, he was also, I don't know if you heard of him, he's a fantastic, he's gone too, but he was studying, he was a classical oboe player and he played alto and a saxophone. So he was invited to Tanglewood up there and up there, wherever that is, this classical retreat with, so anyway, we got, the people management called Eric to come down to work with us, Eric Dolphy. We worked three weeks. Great gig. And so when and he encouraged me, as all of the people I met at the caverns, something, come to New York, come to New York, come to New York. So I did eventually come. So Eric Dolphy, he was pretty. They put him in the avant-garde camp, but he was something else. He was unlike most of the so-called avant-garde that people at that time. Eric was very thoroughly grounded, and he played with the American Symphony. Okay, so he was all that like that. So Eric finally got a date, a recording project with Blue Note, and it was called Out to Lunch. You might have heard of it.
A big one.
Out to Lunch. Yeah. So he invited me he told me to come. He invited me to the rehearsals. I wasn't on the date. Tony Williams was on the date, but he told me to come and bring music, which I did. So I didn't, writing music was no big deal for me. So I brought music. I brought Mirrors song. And what he was doing was setting me up with those people, the Blue Note, Alfred Lyons, Frank Wolf. So I brought the music, and gave it to him. Freddie Hubbard looked at it and said, "Oh, wow, yeah, I like this." And he recorded it. So I was in with the Blue Note people from that point on. Yeah. And I would say Bobby Hutcherson was also on that Out to Lunch. So I believe that the song Mirrors that I wrote, which was written for a composition. I was studying composition, Western. So we were studying something called mirror writing. So, this is the way I'm looking at it. They looked at it and said, "Oh, wow, this guy, he knows what he's doing." The way that the tune was structured, the harmonies, progressions and stuff. So they, wow, this guy must know what he's doing. So they liked the record, they liked the song, they took it. Freddie Hubbard recorded, and I later found out Duke Pearson, who was A&R, he liked it too. And Bobby Hutcherson recorded it way back then, before Freddie. And so, long story short, they were getting me in to the Blue Note crowd. Nothing official or anybody, we just happened. And I started getting a bunch of calls here, over here, Bobby Hutcherson, Freddie Hubbard, McCoy. That's the way it went down. There was no contracts or nothing like that. I was recording. I was a sideman recording. And the other thing on that point that you're making, and I get that question a lot, were you all working bands? Most of it was not working bands. Most of it, they became working bands, but it sounded like working bands because we rehearsed for about 4 or 5 days in a week and then went right in and recorded. Every single recording went down like that. 4 to 5 days at Lynn Oliver's studio, boom, and then you go in and hit. So it sounds like a working band. That's the way it went down.
Wow.
And that's why it sounded like working bands.
They make it sound like, you guys come in a day because you recorded in a day. And they're like, "Oh, wow, you just like whip that out." But I didn't know you guys did that much research before.
You rehearse if you get competent people, and then you do about a week of rehearsing. Boom, you go right. Everybody's ready. It's ready. Everybody got the stuff under their fingers.
Keep the costs down too.
Well, yeah, like I said, became working bands. Like Joe Henderson, we worked. That became a thing. We worked. Joe Henderson, big band. That became a working, of course. Bobby Hutcherson, that became a working band. And, with Harold Land. And, that's, other than that, there was other than, Bobby Hutcherson, Joe Henderson, there was no working bands.
How was it bringing your group of guys for this album during that COVID time period? In the same room, or were you guys like trading ideas?
Well, no, that was an issue. This recording, Maracatu, was supposed to happen in New York. Mm-hmm. They had the studio set up and everything, and I had contacted Ira Coleman and Rick Germanson, and there was a singer up there, and they had percussion and everything. The COVID hit, boom, I got out just in time to, when did I got out? I left there, I was up there February rehearsing March, one of those early March days was that was D-Day, you know. But I got out of there just in time, I think. And so I said, well, no, I'm not coming back to New York to do this. So I got musicians here in North Carolina. Bassist Steve Haynes, excellent bass player. He's in Greensboro, he's a professor over there, and the piano player, Brad Merritt. And I got a singer from New Orleans, and the rapper was also from New Orleans. So we recorded them long distance and sent the files over there to them. So that's how that went down.
Like, when's the last time you went to Bahia?
I've never been to Bahia.
Really? That's shocking.
I've never been to Bahia.
Yesterday I was on Wikipedia studying about Bahia. A friend of mine about 20 years ago told me that was her dream to go to Bahia. That was like all she wanted to do was go to Bahia. So I had my, knowledge about it briefly. And then I looked at online about it, and it is just one beautiful place. It had the first slave trade ever, like in the 1500s, and that's why you have this Portuguese African blend in there. And,
yeah, for sure.
And it's so beautiful.
But that's all over Brazil. That's all over Brazil. But Bahia it's in that, I forget the name of that big province, like a state. I have to go get my notes because the guy mentions it.
Salvador, it used to be the capital for 600 years of Brazil. So I think they said it's the fourth largest province that you're talking about, and it's 14 million people live there, which is, it's not, that's pretty big.
Yeah. So, no, I've never been to that part, but I know of the music there, the maracatu. Well, the maracatu is most recent, but is rooted in candomblé. And so, but the name maraca rhythm and dance is fairly recent. That's a recent situation.
The song, the samba for maracatu, is that the type of music that you're referring to?
Well, yeah. And one thing I'd say, and it's all a part of. It's a syncretic, and I'm very much into that now. And it's not really an authentic maracatu. There's a lot of variants. I have a variant. And there's a little wah ko in there, but it is connected to the maracatu, as the maracatu is connected to batucada in general. That's the overall name of that music down there. When we call samba batucada.
We're gonna play a sample. My favorite song on this album is Circles. So this is a cover from the M Boom from 1984.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to play a sample of the original.
That's not maracatu.
No, it's not. I'm segueing into the next thing. But wow, I love your drumming on this. I think it's really hot. The current version. I'm sure that this is something that you are asked to play all the time, right? Like this would be like one of your biggest hits on tour. like you would say, I gotta play this for the crowd.
Well, yeah, Circles would be, well, there's no crowd. I'm not touring. Some people like that. The guy in Philly, RTI, he likes that. I just did a thing for RTI in their all the week of April 26th to the end. They featured this album. So
Never Let Me Go has a vocalist, Stephanie Jordan from that New Orleans. Right. If you close your eyes, I swear you're hearing like a young Nancy Wilson, like a beautiful Nancy Wilson sound.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I hear that. And with a little Gloria Lynn also.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, she got a lot of Gloria Lynn in her.
I was doing the research. Right, I listened to the album and I love it. And then I went on to see who you had to be sampled by people. And there's a website called whosampledthis.com. And Mind Rain is sampled from you multiple times, not just by Nas. and I was like, oh, Illmatic. It's from the 1994
Right.
Illmatic album. I was all proud of myself. So his song was New York State of Mind, and you did Mind Rain, and I was like, I thought I came up with this by myself, and then I read the bio and the press, and it's all over it. You know, I was so proud. I'm like, I'll be honest with you. I woke up at 4:00 in the morning, so excited with myself that I had this secret thing about this song. And then I read it and I went, damn it, everyone knows about this already. It's not just me.
Right. Yeah, well, I did that. That's I've been asking. My son persuaded me to do this. I know about the sample that Nas did, and that was back in actually in the 90s. And we did a deal as such. The samplers have to play. They have to pay the composer and the record company something that puts it out. We did a little small thing. But that was before it became his signature. You know, this thing became his signature piece.
Well, do you know Uladara? Like his dad is Uladara. Like there's no way that young man.
I know Olu. Yeah, I know Olu. That's his father.
Yeah, so that must have been in the stacks of records at home, this album.
Right. Yeah, right. It's in the stash. They pick it up and say, oh, I like this. Oh, I think I'll take this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm being sick. But you know, Nas came about after, seeing the very beginning of rap and hip hop, the rappers wasn't doing nothing. They'd take something and that was that.
Yeah.
But it became such a thing that they had to consort with the composer, original, which he did. And, you know, and so, well, hip hop is one thing I'll say about hip hop. Another interviewer asked me about, well, you know, hip hop is not new. It is not a new phenomenon.
Not at all.
No, and not at all. And in fact, you do historical research, you go back to Africa, go with the griots. But Cab Calloway was rapping in a way. And Philly Joe Jones did a record back in 1958 called Blues for Dracula, which was straight up dialogue with music. It was dialogue with imitating and background music. It was hip hop way back. And, you know, and nothing was, I don't know. I think it was a modest hit, but, and there were other songs back there when I was a teenager, Stranded in the Jungle that was doing spoken word with background music. So the thing about it, it's not new. It's not a new phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. You got to be impressed that he dug in there and got that though. And that album is considered a masterpiece now in modern.
Illmatic?
Yeah. It just got a reissue, you know, and it's considered in I think the top 500 albums of Rolling Stone. It's in the top like 200 of all time. So people in
the hip hop genre. Well, you know, I've never met him. Of course, he's in another world. I know Olu from way back, but but he acknowledges where I saw a video of him doing because that was his opening theme, you know, that vamp, and he acknowledges it to the audience. Yeah, you know, yeah. Just I got this from Joe Chambers, blah 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 blah. Yeah, well, you know.
That's good. Yeah.
Whatever, you know. So whatever that's going to do. But then my son throws that at me, and that's why I did this.
Yes.
But Mind Ring, that's my piece. Mind Ring, the music that you hear on this that's my piece. Let's see. I'm not good, but the samplers, they take a vamp or something and loop it. You know, that's what they do. That's the extent of their, you know. So I don't want to sound like I'm putting down, but you know, for somebody looking at see, one thing is that I don't like the beats. I do not. Uh-huh. You don't have to put this out, but the beats, what they call the beats, that's to me that's taken what they've taken the jazz drums and people who do like Max, Elvin, Philly, Tony, they've taken it and just pushed it out of the that's a phone. I'm gonna let it go.
Mhm.
They've taken and these beats are like these beats are like something a 10-year-old or somebody would play.
Yeah, on their Casio, it's all like electronic Casio. There's not a human being doing it, and
Right.
it sounds like it. That's a problem, in my opinion. You know, if they had a live musician like maybe doing that, at least you'd have that energy and feel. It's very
Right.
primitive and not in a like more in a childlike way, and it doesn't
Yeah.
sound good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got another question about Rio. Rio feels
Right.
to me that it's like an analog recording of some sort. Like the majority of the song it feels like a tape hiss, but I'm thinking it's your cymbals.
Do you know the song Rio? That's Wayne Shorter.
Uh-huh.
That's a Wayne Shorter piece
Yeah.
that was recorded way back with Lee Morgan, or called The Procrastinator. I learned the tune from Bobby Hutcherson, Harold Land. We played it. They used to call it Wayne Shorter's Bossa Nova because it didn't even have a name yet. But the song itself is, the changes are just extraordinary, and it's a typical Wayne Shorter, and it's like a Bossa Nova. But we don't, as you notice, we don't do it like that. It's a free form.
Yeah.
Free form. The bossa feeling only comes in at the end. That was my idea to do that.
It's almost like a switch. It happens quickly too. It's not.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't, unless you knew the song or was a musician, you wouldn't know it as Rio. You couldn't hear it, but we did freeform.
As a whole, I'd say this album is that you took some, great standards and things that you really liked and you just whipped it up into something very current, something very modern. The one thing about this album is that it sounds fantastic from beginning to end, where a lot of albums have, problems.
Something happens.
Yeah.
But that's life. I think the one thing that I would say jazz musicians are trying to do or are doing, some of them accomplish it. One thing that you want to try to do, and other musicians, and a guy like Wayne Shorter, he's writing an opera.
Yeah.
He's writing an opera, which I say, if I ever see him, I say, don't use that word opera. You see, because once you use that word, then you're talking about the whole history of Western Europe. And, opera I studied opera because I studied composition, Western composition. So opera is just a combining of the arts. You putting all the arts there. Music, dance, sets, all that. It's music theater. That's what it is. That's basically what it is. And all cultures just about have a form of music theater. But once you say opera, then that's like people will just, they're going to be looking for this coloratura and all of that. And that's why I will never use the word opera. Never, because it's going to conjure up all of that. And what you're doing is music theater. See, that's basically what you're doing. So, what was the first thing we got off on this? But, I think what I was saying, most musicians, well-rounded, musicians try to put a program out that has a thread that runs through it, like thematically or harmonically, or like the Counter Blue album, that's why they say, because there's a thread that's running through there. That all of that music is connected. It's not a bunch of songs, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I think most musicians who are broad, they try to do that. I try to do that. There's a thread that's running through that. Of course, there's a thread that's running through it, and the songs are related. They have a relationship. So that's what I'm trying to do. A lot of musicians are trying to do that.
You got people calling you. You got people at your door. I thought North Carolina was sleepy town.
It is. Let me get this door, and it'll take me a minute.
Sure, no problem.
Just take me a minute. Okay.
So it's Samba de Maraca 2. Samba de Maraca 2. It's February 26, 2021. So let's talk about the album. It's Samba de Maraca 2. It's February 26, 2021. And it's on the Blue Note Records. All right.
Okay.
All right, young man. I was actually ready to wind down anyways. I want to thank you for joining me today on Something Came from Baltimore.
Right.
50% is overseas. It seems that my audience is getting more and more like French and German and Sweden each week.
Yeah.
They're picking up.
I checked with Don West. He's the CEO. When he said the record is selling overseas, it's selling hotcakes, and I knew that. I knew that. The problem would be here.
Uh-huh.
I also told him to get over Japan, get over there. But the problem is here. It's the States, and there's a lot of reasons. You can go into it. That's the issue with jazz. But the main issue with jazz, and I've said it. The main issue with jazz now, and it's been for long, is that it's disconnected. It's disconnected from his own people, from the black people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Morgan, I don't want to talk bad about him, but, we have a great jazz program and they dumped all the shows and put talk radio so people can talk about their feelings. I was like,
They dumped your show. They dumped your show.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, look, these people, sometimes it's education too. You need to be exposed and there's nothing wrong with hearing a song you don't know, and learn about it.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's just what I just said. What I just said is an issue. Now, we don't think we have time to get into it. It didn't used to be this way. No. But it is right now. It's this way right now. That's why they dumped your show.
Yeah. Well, I get features like I can get the interview on, but I don't get my own show. So right. I had, all my interviews get wrapped up and get sent to all the other disc jockeys and they'll play it. But when it comes to the show, that's gone. Along with,
the disc jockeys in the area or just
Morgan.
Morgan, yeah.
Yeah, the interview will go on Morgan. But the opportunity of, I'd say that more than 75% of their radio is now talk instead of music. And it shouldn't be that way. It's cheaper to produce.
Yeah. Well, there's the station in North Carolina, I think, they're WNC, I forget, up in Raleigh, but they still are playing jazz.
Yeah.
Up connected with the University of North Carolina, Central. They're still, but the Shaw University, they've canceled out their music too. See, so that's a thing. It's a thing. And, I don't have time to get into the lecture of how it got like that.
Yeah. Well, even Temple Jazz, Temple went 50-50, 50 jazz, 50 gospel.
50-50, yeah. It's still jazz that has 50, I got half of their on-air stuff. And so that's still good. That's a good thing as far as we're concerned.
Well, I remember I lived in Philly and I learned about jazz from Temple Jazz when it was all jazz. Like that was the station that I if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been knowledgeable about jazz. And, I miss that. I don't use them as a source anymore. I don't turn them on. I'm on my own now, looking for, high music and, trying to expand, what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it's a problem all over. And then, you're talking about, then they're pushing, I say they have pushed this, hip hop, which I'm not totally down, and they push the worst hip hop has been pushed right up front, right?
Yeah.
As this is, and so. But
I
you know,
thought,
a guy from Germany way back told me this when current hip hop came in the late '70s. He said, "Man, you know, this stuff is going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you all. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. What you're doing." Way back then, he was saying that, and I mean, it was easy to see that, and that is happening. Donald Byrd used to tell me all the time. He said, "Man, this stuff, this hip hop and rap is going to kick us right out of the picture."
yeah. Well, the current stuff is click tracks. It's all it is a click track, and they rap over top of it. It's really, if you strip off the rap, it's a click track. There's nothing going on. It's terrible.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of real music,
There's not one thing going on.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. I thought that would be a fad, but these kids are growing up with it, so that's what they think is acceptable. And then you put the auto tune on top of it. It's really disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, said it again. I said it before. I said it again. That's one of the reasons. Although I've always played other instruments, and I don't play piano. But now I don't even like to play drums anymore because of that. Because of the beats. And I refuse. The thing I did on the record is, is just a loop, and I refuse. Look, when I was a kid, I never really, when I was a kid playing in the 50s, mid to late 50s, I used to play R&B like we all did. I never liked that. I never liked playing it. Never, because I was trying to be jazz. Jazz is just free, freedom of expression. So, but I definitely don't like the beats. Now, however you put this, or you have to be careful how you say this. But I'm a mallet player. I play mallets. I play mallets on this. But I lay down all the rhythm tracks. It's like I said in the beginning, the beats have taken all the creativity out of drumming, jazz drumming, out of people. They just kicked it right out. Sad.
Yeah. I agree.
But
I totally agree. So you don't want me to use any of that, do you? Or
what you said?
Yeah.
It's something that said, well, let me say this, I did an interview, guy from Downbeat, I forget his name. It was the first interview. And he put in the interview, I had to go back and tell him, he put in the actual interview, Joe, that he doesn't like hip hop. I said, no, don't say that. Do not say that. Do not take that out.
Yeah. Which
they did. So, however way you can express what I'm saying, but I don't want to be put out as somebody who's hating hip hop or hating rap. No. But you can express the fact that this in terms just rhythmically speaking now, and the drum set that we deal with, they have kind of pushed, overshadowed all of the creative drummers in the history. Max Roach, Philly Joe, Roy Haynes, Elvin, Tony Williams. It's kicked it right out of the ears of the public. So,
well said. I like it.
Somebody also asked me, like, how did you become into what they call Latin? Look, I heard when I was a kid, 6, 7 years old, there was out in the Philadelphia area Latin that had their stations, and I heard that music all the time. There was a guy named Joe Loco. He was very popular. I heard that music growing up, and I've always been attracted to that area, that music we call syncretic. Those are syncretism. Those Cuba, Puerto Rico, all of that. There's a story behind it too.
The salsa big bands.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they are. All right, Mr. Chambers, I thank you very much for joining me
All
today.
right. Okay. So when is this coming out?
This will be out probably by the end of this month. We're looking at the 10th, so
Online.
I'll send you a copy of
Okay.
of everything. You'll have the the YouTube version's more of a longer conversation, and then
Right.
the podcast version comes out, and I'll give you that also.
All right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it was great talking to you. This album is fantastic. I'm a big fan. I actually,
All right.
I don't use, sometimes I use, Groove or a crossover media, but I got a copy of this album and I was trying to contact you personally and I'm like, please, can I interview? Please, can I interview? And then when I saw you were connected, I was like, all right, I finally get to talk to you about this album. It's great.
All right. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. Bye-bye.
Feed this one.